fighting for this title. And he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
Yes, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Warm Down. My name is Stephen Howson. Joining me today from my left, I have got, no, my left, your left. I've got Omar. You might have seen him on Stretford Paddock, but he's making his debut on The Warm Down today. I've got Abdul, who you got to know by now. If you don't know by now, I don't know where you've been. And we've got Kieran as well, who I thought you'd actually been on, but you haven't actually
No,
been on
Warm Down debut today.
All right, cool. So we've got a couple of Warm Down debutants. You've probably seen all of these guys actually on Stretford Paddock. And can we just say, actually, Stretford Paddock absolutely smashing it. It's
brilliant, yeah. The growth has been...
Are you enjoying yourself?
I'm absolutely loving every single bit of it.
I'm just literally, because I knew it would take off at the start, but the fact that we're closing in on 20,000 subscribers after, what has it been, 3 months? Has it been 3 months, something like that?
It's probably just over 3 months now.
3 months.
It's actually ridiculous.
20,000 subscribers has just been absolutely insane.
Well, anyway, this isn't a big fat advert for Stretford Paddock, but you can go subscribe to them guys and see what's happening. We're doing a watch along for every single match, and there's probably loads more that's going to be happening right away throughout the season. But today, what I wanted to do was sort of preview United season. Transfer window is closed. It ended with all the disappointment that everybody expected it to. And we have to get back into the top four. I think that's got to be the focus. Would anyone disagree on that? Does anyone think there's got to be anything else we need to focus on?
I think the minimum has got to be top four, hasn't it? I mean, if we're looking below that, we shouldn't be looking below that.
Well, I'm just asking, is anyone thinking... Is anyone sitting here going, do you know what? If we see a style of play, if we start to see some identity come in, I don't even care if we got top
I think
four.
we started to see the identity coming back in the pre-season, didn't we? We saw a style that Ole likes to play, passing from the back, having that creativity, that fast play down the wing. And if we see that constantly throughout the season, I think it'll please a lot of United fans.
But we have to remember as well that despite the fact that, the improvements have been there, we have spent a lot of money this summer. Fair enough, the additions haven't been made. Not maybe as much, not as much as we'd hoped, not in the areas we'd hoped for, but we've still spent £80 million on just one centre back as well. Going on what you said, top four is definitely for me the minimum. Obviously, the style of play, but I think they'll come hand in hand with each other.
Considering what we spent last summer, I think we've had a poor summer in terms
well,
of
we have, to be fair.
The way that we should have recruited. We've recruited correctly because I think getting a right back, getting a centre back was number one priority, and for once, I think we've actually sorted out what our priority was. And you got to build your defence. Like we see with Liverpool, they don't really start competing until they bring Van Dijk in. The main problem that I've got is that we clearly needed a midfielder. We should have been in the market for a midfielder. There's not enough depth. Matic, we've seen him in pre-season. McTominay is going to be left
Coming back to your point then, Kieran, you say we spent a lot. When you consider it being about a £70 million net spend, do you think, what's your opinions on that then?
No, I mean, well, then we probably get back to the point originally of, removing the deadwood and not getting rid of players and stuff like that. And I think Ole, and it goes back to, I suppose, what the whole Lukaku saga as well. Ole said in pre-season, we're not going to get rid of players unless replacements can come in. He sold Lukaku, and that's probably where my biggest frustration would come going into the new season.
I don't want to get bogged down into just the transfer window analysis, but I was going to say that losing Herrera and Lukaku was weaker the midfield in attack.
Yes.
I think that everyone can agree on that.
Yeah.
So I think we're all on the same page there then, that we have to get into the top four as a minimum expectation. Now, whether we do more than that, I think everyone's happy to say, look, we can't call this a good season unless we get into the top four. And you can't even call it a good season getting in the top four. You kind of just go, okay, that was what we wanted. And it has to be built upon. Our finishes in the Premier League in the last 5 seasons: 6th, 32 points off top; 2nd, 19 points off top; 6th, 24 points off top; 5th, and actually closer to the top than we was when we came 2nd, with 15 points off top; and 4th, 17 points off the top. We haven't finished in Champions League position in consecutive seasons since Sir Alex. That, for me, has to be where we build. So even if we come 4th and 4th the next 2 seasons, and I see this progression in play, I think we can call that relative success. Not successful for Manchester United, but it puts us back in the track. Didn't Klopp come 8th and 8th, or did I just make that up?
He did. He came out of the top 6. I remember that, but I'm not sure. It was like 8th, I think, wasn't it?
8th or 7th. But he did walk in in October.
So I'll ask a question to you guys then. So say we saw a massive identity in United style of play, and say we lost out on the top 4 by a point. Would you consider that a successful season?
You have to look at how them circumstances come about. Did we lose De Gea for 6 months for injury? Did you lose Maguire and Wan-Bissaka? I think to kind of draw a line under the the transfer window. What we did this summer that we didn't do in previous summers, we added to the first team. Last summer we didn't sign any first team players. This summer we signed 2 first team players that you know, and I know are going to be starting on Sunday unless something mad's happened. That's an improvement. I still think we're 9 players of an 11 at the moment. I think we're missing at least a midfielder and very likely someone on that right hand side, because I can't, as I've been trying to pick my team, I can't find anybody that I think really suits the system that I'm happy. I can find loads of players that I can put there, but not anyone that I go, the way the wan-bissaka's in the team, I go, he's the right back.
I kind of the one thing I have a fear about is if I feel as if we're one injury away from the midfield for being like
if Pogba goes,
we're in trouble.
We are in big trouble.
Yeah. We have got a very ordinary midfield without Pogba. And I mean, like, Watford can look at ours and go, we could probably overrun that midfield without Pogba.
We might have to see someone like Jimmy Garner step in. And I think Europa League, we've got to use it to our advantage. I think Arsenal did that really well last season, Up until the knockouts, they used a lot of the sort of up-and-coming players. Yeah. And it allowed them to do better in the league at that stage. And once they got into the knockouts, and you see they had to use their best side in Europa League, you could see what happened in the league.
So would you use the Europa League for youngsters then?
All day. Because we need them to come into the Premier League games anyways. And I think there's not better sort of competition than... I know it's the Europa League. It's not the best in Europe. Yeah. But you're still playing, you've got to travel to these sides. Some of them are top sides in their own country.
It's a good experience as well, isn't it?
I think there's a motivation of you picking David De Gea and Paul Pogba to just randomly select 2 people over giving Joel Pereira and Angel Gomez a start.
Yeah.
What sort of mindset is Paul Pogba going into away at Zalgiris versus your Angel Gomez or your Joel Pereira? Those are players where, especially if the manager sets this up correctly, he goes, there's first team places at play here. Yeah. You go and take someone's spot. Because you don't take a spot by not playing. Yeah. I would love it if United treated the Europa League as an under-23 competition. Yeah. Because we can actually still put a very... You can bring in Tuan Zebe. You could still play Rashford. You can obviously still play that youngster Jesse Lingard. You're joking, you knobs. But you can bring in a lot of first team, like Scott McTominay could probably still feature. But if we treated it like a... Maybe not under 23 strictly, because you could then bring in like Phil Jones or whatever to keep it rotated. But I think that would be the best way to approach it.
I think the Europa League's a funny one, to be honest. I think ideally on paper we would all love it to be that, breeding ground for the young players coming through. But as we saw maybe with the Jose season, if things don't go to plan in the league, then the Europa League could very well be, that backdoor route into the Champions League. And I suppose that's maybe a question I'd pose to you guys. Would you call getting back into top 4 via the Europa League, I suppose win the Europa League definitely a successful season and stuff like that. But I mean,
it's a technicality though.
Yeah, it's a technicality.
I would rather that we get our bread and butter and our house in order, that we are good enough to finish 3rd or 4th. Because I don't think top 2 is realistic at all. Unless you're looking at some sort of really unforeseeable collapse with City and Liverpool, I don't think anyone's really going to split them 2. But I do think you can probably get above Spurs. And I know people in the comments are going to be going mental at that, but I do. I just see a frailty to Spurs that when the pressure's on, and if they do lose somebody like an Eriksen, I think they could really struggle.
How many Premier League sides actually get into the top 4 and go all the way in the Europa League? I mean, Chelsea did it last season. It's great, but we've not really seen it, and I think that's where it comes to. I remember us being in Europa League, winning it under Jose, and we go to a lot of these games where we're not. You can see that the players aren't treating this as like a European tie, like a big European tie. I know it's not, but you'd think that someone like Angel Gomez, Jimmy Garner, all these players would, and we've seen what they did the other day. Obviously, playing against first team players. I mean, it was a lower level, but you see how they played them off the park. And I'd like to see someone like maybe Ethan Laird to come in. Maybe that then challenges Luke Shaw because he needs a challenge. So there is a way to use it, and I'm sure if there is one manager that's walked in here that will use those players, I think it will be Ole.
I think the focus has to be on the league this season because. Recently, we've seen for a lot of seasons, I know we talk about Jose finishing 2nd, but some of the football we played was dire at times. And with the league, I think United needs to get back into the groove of getting a consistency inside them because we're always on and off with our play. Sometimes we go on a good run, but then we go off again. I think we just need a bit of consistency, and that top 4 finish needs to be a certainty.
Right, so there's a few areas that I think we have to have addressed, and a few areas that I see we might have addressed and a few areas that we might have actually opened up an issue. The first one, goal scoring. Now, we need to improve our goal scoring in the league. Since our last title win in 13, no one has managed more than 20 goals in the league. Zlatan got the closest with 17. Last season, top scorer was a midfielder, which I think is a bit of a jib because there was a lot of penalties involved there. And if he'd have given all those penalties to one of the strikers, they would have been potentially over that. Lukaku had 12 and he's gone. Yeah. We scored 5 goals in the league for the first time, which was Cardiff away, Solskjaer's first game. We definitely have to step up the scoring, especially when you look at some of the others in the top 6. You've got Aubameyang managed 22 for Arsenal, had a great season. Salah and Mane both scored 22 for Liverpool. Aguero managed 21 for City. Our goal scoring options, and there was talk today, this might develop as this video is not coming out till tomorrow, so this might develop, but there was talk that Roma could have come into Sanchez. I think if we lose Sanchez as well, despite that, he's a ton of issues, isn't he? If we lost Sanchez as well as Lukaku, you are literally then reliant upon your midfield, and then Marcus Rashford, who's topped out at 13, Anthony Martial, who I think has topped out at 18, and Mason Greenwood, who currently has 0 league goals to his name.
So do you guys, I'll bring this question to you guys, do you guys have confidence in any of our strikers? Say that it's those 3, Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. Do you guys have any confidence in those guys getting 20 goals this season?
I think the thing is with the age group that some of these guys are in, it's always a process. You look at your Ronaldos. I mean, Rooney and Mbappe, they're once-in-a-lifetime sort of players that come up and bang straight away. But they do sort of need to gradually come into like that sort of goal-scoring habit. So I don't, confidence, I can't say they're going to score 20
What about
goals
Rashford then, Abdul? Because Rashford's been in this league for quite a while now, since Van Gaal. And I think, what's his highest goal tie? It's about 13, isn't it? Some United fans may argue that
he hasn't had
deliver.
a season playing as the pure striker, and I think that's why
I would go further than that and say him and Tony Marshall haven't had a full season playing number 9. Tony Marshall hasn't. I think he played a lot of that first season under Louis as a centre forward, but we also still had Wayne Rooney. We had a lot of other players in the mix around there that were also playing minutes down the middle. None of our strikers, first choice, have ever played a full season as a striker.
And you have to remember as well, even if you look at minutes played for the likes of Martial and Rashford, remember there was that time where they were interchanging so much, one would start and one would come off. I mean, you look at games played as one thing, but you have to look at minutes played, for example. You look at last season, I mean, Rashford really was, a bit part player under the first part of the season under Jose. There was talk of him going out on loan to Everton, so on and so forth. And when he had that string of games in the side, when Ole first took over, he was absolutely smashing it, and he was seen as that next hope. He was seen as not even the next hope. He was seen as he's going to be our target man for the future. So obviously towards the end of the season, we all know what happened. It went kind of tits up. Let's call it like it is. But I mean, I'm kind of baffled at the fact that people are losing hope and people are writing us off so quickly. Despite the fact that we showed what we could do last season when you have Pogba and Rashford. Just look at that goal against Spurs when Pogba lifted over the top, Rashford in behind. That's the kind of football we're going to be playing coming into this season. And I just find it absolutely hilarious where people are writing off Marcus Rashford at this stage when he's shown what he could do.
The conversation about the centre forwards and sort of who plays out on the left, who plays the centre forward. If you look at Liverpool, you've got Sadio Mane and Salah. If they play as the pure striker, they're not scoring as many goals.
Well, they all interchange, don't they?
So they do interchange, and they play as more of inside forwards. And I think, personally, Martial's a lot more comfortable getting into the box if he's coming off the left-hand side, just like Sadio Mane. So it might work better for him to have Marcus Rashford running the channels, open up the space for him. And if he's got it in his head this season to sort of anticipate those chances like Sadio Mane has done at Liverpool, is that he can be that goal scorer because he is our best finisher, hands down.
So say you guys are the manager of Manchester United and you had to pick the person to go up front for us. Who are you picking? Because personally, I would pick Anthony Martial because I think he's our best finisher, personally. And I think he's got that clinicalness to him. And with Rashford, you can tell he does score goals, but he can sometimes be a bit nervous to feel in front of goal. And we talk about him closing his eyes when he has the ball as well. Like, it's just those things I think I'm a bit sceptical about with Rashford, but if it was me, I'd pick Martial, definitely.
I think it comes down to what you want from the striker off the ball.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to be a team that works and a team that looks to close down. So you have to make the decision. Now, Marcus and Martial aren't perfect, unfortunately. They've got brilliant attributes about their game, and they've got weaknesses in their game. Marcus's is his finishing. I would like to see him improve when he goes up against a defender 1v1. I would like to see him try and beat them more often and put something in, whether that's a shot or a cross. I think Anthony Martial's movement off the ball has to improve. He waits for the ball to come to him far too much. But when he's on the ball, his dribbling is mind-blowingly good and his finishing is mind-blowingly good. So there's areas of the game that they've both got to round out and they've both got to improve upon. So you have to make the decision as a manager where you go, do I want to be strong in the wide areas? Do I want Marcus Rashford to double up with Luke Shaw on the left? Do I want James, Lingard, Greenwood, whoever, to double up with wan-bissaka on that right-hand side? Might even be Delo. I think we're probably going to see Delo a lot on that right. Yeah. That means that I can almost have a lazy number 9 because we're going to be so strong down those wide areas that your number 9 only has to put half an hour jogging. You might go on the other end and go, actually, I'd like to put those centre-halves under pressure, and I'm going to put Marcus Rashford there. And I'm going to sacrifice, actually, Luke's a bit better defensively and he works hard, so Tony Marshall's all right on that left-hand side because he's not going to be a weakness. It's like if you had... It was an issue when Ashley Young was there and it was Tony Marshall. Because Ashley on his own isn't going to be able to defend with Martial there. With someone a little bit better, you're all right, I think. So it depends on what the manager's seeing and what his objectives are in each game. Because I can easily make a case that Marshall should play down the middle. For the same reasons you said. He's the best finisher. Yeah. And when he dribbles past people, and he's also scored 18 when he's played predominantly down the middle in that first season. I can also make a case that says Marcus Rashford should play down the middle. If you want to put those centre-halves under pressure, if you want someone that's constantly moving all the time, dragging defenders around. And then I can also make a case why both of them should play on the wing as well.
So where does Greenwood then come into this for you guys?
Greenwood's not ready yet. In terms of the physicality of the guy, he's not ready to start 30 games. He is more than ready to come off the bench.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to get the opportunity in that wide area. I don't know if you noticed against Leeds, De Gea went straight to him about 3 times. And I was going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because the defender was just pushing him out of the way, just move. He's about 8 stone in here or something. Like, he's not a big lad yet. And he's not got that side of his game at all. And I think that's probably why we wanted like a Mandzukic or somebody like that. Yeah. But Mason's got attributes to his game and a style of play that is eerily reminiscent of what Cristiano Ronaldo is like. Loves a step over, can go left or right. Yeah. And selfishly, he's going to come in and shoot more than he's going to come in and cross. Yeah. So if you've got that on the left with Rashford coming in and crossing and you've got him on the right coming in and crossing, as long as you've got someone supplying the balls into the final third, which is something that we'll get to in a little bit, talking about creativity, then you're going to be okay. The issue United about at the moment is whoever plays as number 9 is absolutely starved of service, whether that's Tony Marshall, Lukaku, Marcus Rashford. We don't get that person on the ball enough. Look how many shots Harry Kane has. Look how many shots Tony Marshall has. You put Tony Marshall in the Spurs team, he's scoring 30 goals a season because they are a chance-creating team. Same at Manchester City.
With Raheem Sterling as well, yeah. He misses a lot of chances too.
If you look at how many shots it takes per game, Sadio Mane and Tony Marshall, 3.9 shots per game per goal. That was the best in the league. Harry Kane was up at like 6.5. Lukaku was down at like 5.5. I think Aguero was about 5.5. Marcus Rashford was 8.4, which sounds bad. It was exactly the same as Cristiano Ronaldo, 8.4. The difference being, Cristiano Ronaldo had more shots than Lukaku, Marcus, and Tony Marshall combined. Yeah. And that's why he come
I think the best example of that is Mo Salah. When he went through that patch mid-season where people call him a one-season wonder, in my head, I'm like, he will score because you take those shots. This happens. All you've got to do is do your research and check that when these players are taking their shots, it's always a good sign. And especially the areas they take them in. And then eventually he did start scoring those goals. And we see that with Harry Kane. Sometimes it doesn't come off for him, but as long as you're taking those shots and you were creating, and I think that's our main problem. We have got a problem in the final third with getting that last ball in. And I think it's going to be very important to see what we can do this season, whether it's Angel Gomez or whoever that is.
So you talk about getting that final ball in, and we talk about Rashford and Martial maybe cementing their positions in Ole's side. Would you prefer to see Mason Greenwood then on the right, or would you like to see Dan James? Because what I see with Dan James is that he lacks that final ball from what we've seen in pre-season.
What I see with Dan James is, though, and there is that question about whether or what his end product is, but I do like what I see Dan James doing, and I saw him doing a bit with Swansea last season. He's not a traditional winger you see today where they're going to run at. He doesn't run at defenders. He runs into space. Yeah. He's going to come across off that right or left side. He's going to drag defenders. He's always making horizontal runs across that back four. And that's where I think a player like Marcus will flourish, because space is going to be created against any team, because the pace on Daniel James is going to just terrify defenders, create space, pulling them across, and his flexibility as well. Plays on the left and the right, and has actually filled up, I think, a few times for Swansea as like a lone false nine last season as well. So I think it's tactical flexibility for me. But Mason as well, like Steve was saying earlier, a player who'd probably take more shots, definitely more end product than Dan James and stuff like that.
He obviously only coming through the academy, played every level for Manchester United last season. 74 minutes a goal.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Insane.
Ridiculous.
So like 40 games, something like 25 or what was it? 40 games. Like
it was more goals, than a goal a game.
18 assists,
and then about half
like
as many assists per game.
43 games, 46 goals.
And that free was it that hat trick he scored against? He scored two. Was it 2 free kicks against Newcastle? One with each foot. Something.
That free kick.
Liverpool.
Guys taking penalties with his wrong foot.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen someone? And did you see the little laugh that he did as he came back? Yeah. Like I almost think Solskjaer had gone, "Don't you dare take that with your wrong foot," and he's done it anyway. And come back like, "I scored." So. The goal scoring, I think, is going to be an issue, and it will remain to be seen. I think one of Tony or Marcus, and my money's on Tony for this one, is going to get 20 goals this season. I think they have to.
Yeah.
Sanchez, I think, is the big conundrum in all of this. Yeah. Because he might really fit. I mean, if you looked at the way Liverpool's system works, in 2 or 3 years' time, maybe this isn't going to work for Sanchez, but if you see Sanchez as the Firmino role, he's a creator, he's a worker. This is what Sanchez does. He's not a striker, and the other two are coming in and making goals. It's asymmetrical and it's non-traditional, but it's very effective for Liverpool. I do wonder if Sanchez is going to be the one. Now, I also think we're going to score more goals because I think we're more confident in our defence. So I've got some data here that we can go through. 7 clean sheets last season in the league, which means 31 times we didn't. We conceded 54 goals in the league, which is the most we've ever conceded in the Premier League era. We definitely needed a centre-back for multiple seasons, so we spent 80 million on Harry Maguire and 50 million on wan-bissaka. So Harry Maguire, definitely an improvement on what we had. Average of 1.1 tackles per 90 and 1.2 interceptions, but 4.1 aerial duels. That, for me, is the standout one. What he's going to bring in the air is huge. Also got the ability of stepping out. United conceded more goals than Leicester did by 6, and Maguire was obviously their player of the year. Wan-bissaka led fullbacks in the league with the most clearances, most tackles won, best tackle completion rate, most take-ons, and most interceptions. Those two have levelled up our defence immeasurably, haven't they?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Are we going to win more games now simply because we're going to be meaner at the back?
I think there's more balance in the back four. Remember last season, there was just we had Ashley Young, and it was either Smalling or Jones, and even going forward as well, it would be Jesse filling in on that right-hand side as well, and even Dan James. We said he may not be the end product, or Mason maybe too young and to be thrown in straight away, but having those players there, it adds more depth, more balance to the side. We're not going to be a left heavy kind of side with Luke Shaw. We've seen Luke Shaw's heat map last season in a few games. It's absolutely insane. The ground he has to cover, not just defensively but going forward, is absolutely ridiculous.
And we clogged that left-hand channel because Pogba favours going to his left all the time. We only attacked down the left-hand side because mostly that's where Tony Martial or Marcus was coming from. And we didn't have anybody on the right, and sometimes it was only Ashley Young on the right. And that was an issue playing Mata there. You play Mata on the right and Ashley Young, you're weak defensively and you're weak attacking.
No pace at all either.
I think with Harry Maguire and Wan-bissaka coming into that dressing room, they automatically improve that defence massively. And with Wan-bissaka, he can actually, Delot can learn from him defensively as well. I think he'll make Delot better. I think we'll see a lot from Delot this season, personally. In terms of, I know Wan-bissaka will be the first choice right back, but when Delot plays, I think we'll see some good performances.
Imagine you could combine them.
Yeah.
Imagine a fullback with the crossing ability of Delot and the defensive ability of Wan-bissaka.
Yeah. And then also with Harry Maguire, I think he improves Lindelof, because you know where Lindelof lacks. Heading ability. Yeah. Harry Maguire, we all know what he's capable of with his head. So I think in terms of that heading ability, I think we'll see Lindelof improve.
Going into this season, what I've been impressed in pre-season with is the tactical understanding of what our fullbacks are doing as well. Going into midfield,
out wide,
and I think that's sort of something that had to change every game in our defence. We've never gone. I don't think we've ever done a preview or anything where we're like, oh, I'm happy with this defense. Have we? Like, we never, like, it could always change because it's never been good enough. Delo, you always think, oh, you know, they might get in behind him, and then Ashley Young. Luke Shaw's not always been impressive. Like, now you
maybe
can go that
Luke Shaw's not been impressive because the pressure on the guy. The pressure on the guy to be both one of our best defenders and also an attacking outlet.
I think we'll see an improvement in Luke Shaw this season. Personally,
just from the lack of focus down the left.
Well, yeah, but also I think because we've got better defenders in, I think he'll learn from them. And through the experience last season, there was a lot of pressure on Luke Shaw last season, I felt, because he kind of created a split in the fan base. Some people thought he was good.
Player of the year, like today.
Yeah, he was Player of the Year as well. And then some people thought he was good. Some people thought he was shit. But I think we need to see a few more, like you see with Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold for Manchester City. I mean, not Manchester City, Liverpool. They always get assists, don't they? And they understand each other's game. And I think that's what we need to see from this United side.
We were asking questions as well, whether wan-bissaka, and I even said it on Stretford Paddock a few times, whether I said, you know, wan-bissaka may not be that, attacking threat that, you know, he's going to be defensive improvement. But in pre-season, you just have to look at Mason's goal against, was it Leeds as well? He's constantly overlapping. He's very impressive in attack for me anyway. I mean, I think he only got something like 2 or 3 assists last season, wan-bissaka, if I'm wrong. But he's shown in pre-season that there is going to be attacking balance as well in that team, overlapping as well.
But he's changed the emphasis and he's changed the philosophy of the team. It's probably not him. He's probably been bought because he fits the emphasis already. Yeah. And I definitely think a lot of our players, especially in the forward lineup, I look at Mason Greenwood, Tony Martial, and Marcus Rashford, those 3 specifically, but you can even put Sanchez into that, and Lingard, and Juan Mata. None of them are winning an header. Abdul's beating them in the air. Pretty much all of them. You say about Marcus closing his eyes, he's shit with his head. Yeah. That's just not his game. Yeah. And we was trying to cross it in for all of those guys, and Delo was being used to cross it in quite a lot. He was bought to service Lukaku. Lukaku's not there anymore. What you look at the interplay, the touch and go that Luke Shaw gives you down the left, you're now starting to see it's not quite as high level as his defending. Yeah. But he misses with it a little bit. But you can see what he's trying to do with wan-bissaka down the right hand side. He's more looking to get to the byline and pass it in exactly the way he did for Greenwood's goal, which is why I love that goal so much, because I've been dying for United to score those goals, to give us those one-touch tap-ins. We don't. When was the last time United scored a one-touch tap-in? It was the 90s, I think, right? We don't do it. It's not our game, and I would love us to create an identity goal. If I said, explain to me a Manchester City goal, you could do it.
Yeah, just squaring it across. Sterling comes in, or Sane comes in, and that's why they're getting 20.
They're going to put it around the penalty box after passing some team to death. Someone's going to then commit someone, or they're going to find an overlap somewhere. They're going to come along the byline and they're going to pass it back. It's a sweaty Pro Evo goal.
We talk about the defence, guys, and we haven't mentioned this yet, but as much as I love the pairing of the potential good pairing of Lindelof and Maguire, I do want to see Axel Tuanzebe in that team. Well. I think with Axel Tuanzebe,
please refer to him as future captain.
Future captain
of England, and
he's looked absolutely sensational in pre-season.
Flawless.
Yeah, unbelievable. Every time he's played, he's just looked brilliant, and he looks calm and composed, and that's what you need. I mean, imagine him next to Maguire. I think that would be perfect.
You could have the United back four, in theory. I mean, if Gareth Southgate likes it, why not see it for England? Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Right, we're going to wrap it up in just a second, but I'm going to come to you all. I'm going to say, summarise what you want to see from the season, and I'll do all of these individually. What you want to see happen in the league, what you want to see from the team, and then give us a prediction of how we're going to do.
For me, anyway, I think I can speak for a lot of people over the past few seasons.
Before you get in, I want your player of the year in this, and your surprise package of the year.
Okay, so my player of the year this season, I'm going to go with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. To be honest, I think given the lack of natural right backs we've had, not just last season, but over the past few years, I think it's going to really stand out when we have an out-and-out right back who's not only just the best right back at the club, but statistically who was the best right back, I think, in Europe last year. Defensively.
In the world ever.
In the world ever. That's going to stand out for me massively, and he's going to be my player of the season. I think surprise package of the season, I'm probably going to go with, I think I might go wild card. I'll go with Scott McTominay for this season. I'm going to go with Scott McTominay. I think towards the end of last season, you saw when he got a good run of games in the first team, especially against Barcelona. Maybe that could have been the fact that the rest of the team, didn't really show. But I think Ollie's shown his faith in Scott McTominay. And yeah, he may not be the most gifted technically, player at Manchester United, but he gets it. He gets it, and not a lot of players get it. And I know we talk a lot about knowing the identity, but I think Scott McTominay, all his career, he's had to fight for his place at the academy and stuff like that. And I think given a run of games, he's going to show what he's worth, given his physicality as well in that midfield for me. You were going to say as well, what do you want to see improve? Short and sweet. I think just an improvement in the style of football, given the past few years under Van Gaal and Jose. Just for me, an improvement in the style of football.
I'm going to agree with both, to be honest, in terms of wan-bissaka and McTominay. I can see sort of why I can see wan-bissaka being our player of the season, because what is his tactical understanding of the game, what I've seen in pre-season, of him stretching the play even off the ball and then opening up space for the likes of Pogba and stuff to drive into midfield. And I think then you got to bring into that what he does defensively, those mad tackles that we don't see anyone else make in the Premier League, and that's going to stand out for us. Now, as for Scott McTominay, I think what I've seen from him in pre-season and towards the end of last season has impressed me. He's finally dropping in between the centre halves. That last Milan game, a lot of people didn't pick out what he was doing. And I think that's because it was Matic alongside him. But he was doing everything that Matic should have been doing in that game, dropping in between the centre halves. As soon as he touches it, quickly turning, finding players with confidence, something that I didn't really see in McTominay. And I think because we needed someone in that role, and because when he gets injured, we could possibly see what we're lacking in that area of the pitch, he could be our surprise. And again, a style of football, if we have an identity, we finish this season with having an identity, a strong finish to the season and Champions League qualification, that for me is a good season.
I agree with both Kieran and Abdul in that I think wan-bissaka will be player of the year. Personally, I think what we've seen from pre-season, he's looked unbelievable. And defensively, we've already touched upon this, best right back in the world
of all time.
The one thing I do want to see from Manchester United is an identity back. I think we've missed that identity for a good few seasons, maybe since Fergie, actually. I know, debatable, but realistically...
Look, the face says it all. The face says it all, in deep thought.
It's been nearly a decade since we had an identity. We didn't really even have an identity under Fergie when we last won a title. It was just sort of like...
The rest of the league was shit, but we've just got Van Persie.
I think one thing I do want to see is that the fitness levels last season was so poor.
Yeah,
you saw a lot of people walking across the pitch, and that's not what you want from a Manchester United player.
The Huddersfield goal? Oh, I don't want to see anything like that.
Yeah,
I don't want to see anything.
Oh, the walking around and then
what I want to
see of Pogba. It's all.
What I want to see is pressing all the time. Everybody keeping on their toes. My surprise package, I think. I would agree with Scott McTominay, but I'll change it a bit.
I'll mix it up.
I'll go with Mason Greenwood, because I think if he gets a run of games in and he gets that consistency, I can see him getting about 10, 15 goals this season.
Well, I may or may not have a bet on him going to the Euros, which I may or may not have put on about 18.
If Theo Walcott can go, then there's no doubt Mason Greenwood can go, to be fair. If Theo Walcott gets called up...
I swear to God if that comes in.
Oh, man.
To be honest, it's not amazing odds because they limit you on this sort of... Yeah. Like, if you have a baby born today, like they'll only give you like 400, 500 to 1 or something, or 250 to 1 now or something like that. It's like well shit odds. Like,
was it a request event? Was it? Yeah, I'm guessing.
It was 50 to 1 I got, which is not even great at all, to be honest. But yeah, I agree with all the points that all of you have made really there, and I think the same thing. Just to echo that, we want to see an identity. We want to see us get back into the top 4. Definitely want to see that fitness. If we play the way we played in that first 10 weeks of Olive's reign, we're going to be a nightmare for people. Yeah. We beat some big teams in that, and we slapped some smaller teams, and that's what it's all about. It's not about grinding through your lower level teams. It's about turning up and fucking levering them. That's what you got to do.
I think, Steve, the one game that I remember that kind of defined Solskjaer's philosophy was Spurs away. I think that's what all United fans want to see. And that's, I think, what we should expect to see. It's kind of like a preview, actually, to what Solskjaer was all about in his play. Counter-attacking, fast football, and even the goal as well. It's brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah. But that's what I want to see from United this season.
My surprise package is going to be different to all of you guys, and it's just from something that we saw. Like we jibbed into training when we was in Australia, and Pogba was incredible.
Yeah,
but you expect Pogba to be incredible. If he's not incredible, it's newsworthy. So it was incredible. Carry on. Scott McTominay was very impressive, and it's really changed a lot of my opinion because I didn't think his touch was that great, and I thought his passing range was limited. And I've reflected on that a little bit and gone, Wonder if that was Jose saying, "Be very simple in your play." There's a very good chance that he was instructed to be.
Jose saw a lot in Scott McTominay, didn't he? There was something about him. He always praised him, you know, compared to the rest of the squad. He was, what did he say? Something like, "Oh, this kid, he drives a normal car. He's got a normal haircut. He gets it," or something like that.
So I agree. I think there's going to be something in McTominay. But my surprise package is Angel Gomez.
Yeah.
I think in a team that dominates the ball, Angel Gomez would be worth 150 million. Like if he was coming through at Manchester City right now, and they weren't playing him, it'd be an absolute crime. United are going to be a counter-attacking side. But when we come up against those smaller teams that you expect to slap, certainly the Europa League, Angel Gomez has got to play. Against Rotherham the other night, they tried to put it on him. Because he's so small, it's actually an asset. Because he just becomes the most foul player in the world. You can just lean on him, he goes down. It's kind of clever, and it's kind of snide at the same time, but it's very effective. His ability on the ball, I swear, it was an almost flawless game from him.
That was a joke.
There was passing the ball to him around the halfway line, and he knew Chong was on the move and in space, and he's not even looked, and he sent a ball out there, and the ball was inch perfect. And one thing that annoys me with Martial is when he's doing link-up play, he passes it behind people, and it makes me want to punch the person next to me. It's well annoying. Angel Gomez is putting it in the path of people, and he's going round the corner, and he's going over the top, and he's spraying it out wide. There's an absolute maestro in Angel Gomez.
So do you want to see him in that number 10 role
by the end of the season?
Yeah.
He needs to take over from wan-bissaka.
Yeah.
Maybe not this season, maybe not.
I agree 100%.
But Angel Gomez has got the ability, and I think he's got the temperament to be an absolute top-class footballer. Mason's going to get the headlines because he'll score the goals. But do not sleep on Angel Gomez, because I think there's a genuine top player in there. And how great is it that we could realistically see our forward line be, like, out of the 6 attacking players in the team, only Tony Marshall's not an academy player.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Which is nuts. Yeah. Which is nuts for all of those headlines that was written about the club failing and being behind this, that and the other. You've got Scott McTominay, Paul Pogba, Jesse Lingard, Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, Angel Gomez, and then you're still talking about the likes of Ethan Laird coming through. We bought wan-bissaka, but he'll feel like an academy player in about 3 weeks. He's definitely going to become a cult figure at United, I think. Yeah. That tackling ability is absolutely.
And you look at the stats from pre-season, because all but one goal was either scored or assisted by an academy player at one stage.
That's an identity. Yeah. And on that note, I think we should wrap it up there. But thank you guys for joining us all the way throughout pre-season. And thanks for the support that we've had for Stretford Paddock, because it's been sensational. And if you haven't already, I urge you to go and subscribe, because we are chasing down, I'll be honest with you, 25k was my target by the end of the season. And we're probably going to hit 20k just before the first game of the season, or just miss it and probably hit it during that game. It's been sensational. Come and join us for the ride. The reason it's doing so well is because the content is high quality. And it's only going to get better and better the more of you come and subscribe, which means we can bring in more people and do more things. So thank you guys for all the support so far. And for those that are about to go and subscribe, we thank you as well. See you in the next one. Laters.